Welcome back to another episode of After Hours Ag. Matt Ball here, your host. I got Jack, actually, a new producer. Make sure we get the camera on him.
I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for being here, Jack. And you know what? I think you're doing a great job as your first producer of the podcast. The podcast room is cleaner than it's ever been.
I spent quite a bit of time cleaning it up, yeah.
All right, don't tell me how much time, but it is clean. It's nice. And our guest today, Stephen Ystebo. And I know how to say the name. I know how to say the name accurately, right?
You've got it. You know someone in the family. That's what it amounts to. Ystebo. Try to pronounce that one.
Yeah. And we have a cool story and connections. It's just like all of a sudden Stephen comes into my life and we find out we're connected in many ways. And it all happened at once where there's a lot of other things going on that we're connected to. And so we decided, let's get Stephen on a podcast here. He's got an ag background. He's got a story to share. And it's going to be something you guys are going to want to hear because some of you have experienced some of these things that he's gone through. There's been some tragedy in your life, some change of plans, some things with your family business. All of a sudden that didn't work out, and we're going to get to that. And first of all, Stephen, would you just give us a little background of your family, brief who you are, and we'll roll right into the other stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Steve Ystebo. I come from a family of 4 children. I have 3 sisters. I have a family of my own now. I have a wife and 3 children. And I guess I'll announce it here. We have a 4th on the way.
Ooh, are we the first to hear it?
Some of my closest friends don't even know yet, but I'll try to beat them to the publication of this podcast.
You have a few days.
Yep. And so, currently I'm the development director of a local nonprofit, Fix It For Ministry. We donate free vehicles and free vehicle repairs to people in need. My roots are with Moorhead, born and raised and currently living. We had a family business for 54 years based out of Moorhead that sold to the agricultural industry, and specifically spraying equipment. And my path was redirected about 2 years ago, which is when I stepped on board in the nonprofit sphere after deciding to close our family business. But yeah, today I'm very happily married and a local kid. You and I have some connections that go back, to the school years, early school years. And so here we are today. We met last Thursday. Today's Wednesday, so 6 days ago, and it's been a whirlwind of fun, kind of, seeing how this all aligned. So
yeah, let's get to the connections. So here's where I'm going to start with, but perhaps there's other ones. We'll get them all in there, I think. The first one is Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that's like the most recent, and we're going to work backwards.
Probably. And so he'd actually already reached out to Jesse, if you know, I'm a twin. And there was some kind of connection or conversation or somehow you got Jesse's number and reached out and it's like, hey, I'd like to get together with you, share probably what's going on with the Fix It Forward ministry. And we put you off, and that was for good reason. It was busy season for us, and we just could not fit anyone else in. I was probably out. Jesse was traveling a lot too. And so all of a sudden, fast forward a few months, we're in the middle of summer, and I'm looking on Facebook Marketplace. Actually, Facebook Marketplace is soliciting to me
always
things that it knows I need/want. And all of a sudden, this load-all ramp comes up, and I'm like, hey, that could work for farm shows. So I thought about it, and I threw it around, and I'm like, well, by the time I figured out, let's try for it, let's go for it, I reached out to you, and you came back with quite a response. Like, hey, what'd you say?
I was like, I reached out to your brother in April, wanted to connect, share about the ministry, hear your guys' story, network a little bit. And I was literally going to reach out to you guys this week to see if it would be a better time to connect. And Facebook Marketplace knew better than I.
Yeah. So that was cool. Also, it was a bummer for me because I was going to try to negotiate lower price. I'm like, oh, shoot, he knows me.
I'm a sales guy. No.
Yeah.
It was really good timing too, because I have a major insurance disaster at my house that I'm trying to pay for. And the extra cash came at just the right time. So it was good.
So God's providing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In fact, he's connecting us.
Ways.
Yeah. Because I had no idea that you'd try to reach out. I didn't know who you were yet.
Yeah. Twins don't necessarily have ESP all the time.
No, and Jesse and I never talked.
Yeah, I get it.
Counter to popular probably belief.
You just bunked for 18 years, and then
Yeah. We're around each other, so we generally know what's going on.
yeah.
Anyway, that was the latest connection. Another connection we have is through our past education through Park Christian School.
Yep.
Went there. We're both alumni. I'm a bit older than you, but
yeah.
that's where I knew the Ystebo name. There was a teacher that I didn't have, but Jesse had, because they did split us up.
Okay.
They didn't like us staying in the
Strategic,
same
huh?
class. I'm sure the teacher would struggle with that. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cute, though. Two little redheads. Anyway, they did split us up, and Jesse's favorite teacher was Mrs. Ystebo.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you said that or Jesse. So
Yep.
Jesse.
And what did he ask
Sir.
when he wanted to know the connection?
Is it your mom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like,
that. Yeah.
is she your mom? Is it, what's her name again?
Serene.
Serene. Is Serene your mom?
My dad's cousin's wife.
Yeah.
But she's like an aunt to me.
Yeah.
And a great aunt.
And obviously she's as sweet as to the kids she
Just
was
as
to
sweet
everyone
today.
else.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that was cool. Cool connection there. And then what are other connections we have?
The agricultural manufacturing sector is kind of a overlap. We're both believers in Jesus. That's the strongest
Yep.
connection. And yeah, I'm sure we'll find all kinds of connections before we're done with this podcast.
That's right. Now tell me about the ag background.
So yeah, in 1969, my grandfather, Stuart Ystebo, started a company called Pleasure Products Manufacturing, and they began by manufacturing things out of fiberglass, specifically canoes, kayaks, sailboats. They made the first ever motorized surfboard, believe it or not, in 1969-70.
Was he ahead of his time?
He was ahead of his
Just didn't
time.
have battery power.
No, they were
technology.
battery powered.
What?
Yeah. Yep, motorized, electric motorized. Yep. So
No way.
they look like the modern day stand-up paddleboard, but they had a little torpedo motor that my dad said would go about walking speed. So, and
Wow.
if you need proof, I have one of the originals still. So,
No
but anyways, then a farmer came to him with a harebrained idea one day of producing a fiberglass tank, rather than at that time there were a lot of steel tanks hauling, chemical and fertilizer and so on and so forth for the agricultural sphere. And he developed a fiberglass tank for holding chemical, and made water carts and stuff like that, water tenders for guys to apply chemical on their fields. And so he hit that at the absolute peak of the demand. And so he built thousands and thousands of fiberglass tanks, anywhere from 100 gallons up to, we made a tank for Cass Clay Creamery that was over 20,000 gallons of vertical. It's still there. You can drive down the road and see it.
Oh, it's
yeah,
an outdoor one.
Yep, it's outdoor, and I'm not sure what they use it for, but it's over 40 years old, still working. So, yeah, we sold a lot of fiberglass tanks, and then around the tanks, we started building spraying equipment. So, to help the agricultural community and build spraying equipment. So, did a lot of pull type sprayers, and did de-icing spray equipment, lawn care sprayers, different types of municipal sprayers, anything with the tank, pump, the whole water system. We put those together. And then, we went through a name change in about 98, 99, shortly after my dad acquired the business from my grandpa. We were Pleasure Products, and when Google and the internet comes out, Pleasure Products doesn't exactly lead people to agricultural equipment. It became a very big challenge for us. As a matter of fact, I've heard stories from customers of the likes like, my wife who did our books wanted to know what I spent $2,500 on at Pleasure Products. And one farmer customer actually had to drive his wife to our business to prove to her that it was not, there was maybe trust issues in that relationship.
Man.
But so we dealt with that dilemma, changed our name to Riverbend Industries, and dealt with the challenge there. We were a namesake for 30 years, and we changed, and maybe didn't remarket ourselves real well, but we're still successful for many years later. And so yeah, that was the whole reason for the name change. We continued building spraying equipment. We took on the first line of the Apache sprayers in the early days, and they just weren't what they are now. So they didn't catch on quite as quickly as we would have hoped. So we phased out of being a distributor for those and went back to just the pull type sprayers, which kind of got us pushed out of the market more or less. Not a lot of pull type sprayers in the industry anymore, but yeah, we sold a lot of liquid handling equipment, the fittings, the pumps, the service of all of that. And so in 2000, so I started working for the family business in 2008. And when I was 19 years old, had a brief stint pursuing law enforcement and decided it wasn't for me. And my dad needed help within the business. And I thought, well, let's see how this works out. And spent 8 years working for my dad and started in the tank room, putting tanks together all day long in a Tyvek suit, sticky, hot, chemical burns on your skin, and slowly worked into sales. And
what does putting tanks together look like?
so the tanks are 2 fiberglass parts, a top and a bottom. They come together, they're bolted, and then they're fiberglass together on the inside. And so it's basically like you're duct taping them together on the inside, but with a fiberglass matting and the resin infused. And you'd roll that out, roll all the bubbles out to make a watertight seal. And so I spent a summer, maybe just a hair more than a summer, making tanks. So forced air mask, crawling down in a confined space. Some of our 3,000-4,000 gallon tanks have 3 chambers, so you're crawling underneath baffles to the very back. You have a trouble light, with back in those days, battery lights weren't quite as common as they are now. And so you're just in a confined space all to yourself all day long. The chemicals would burn your eyes if you didn't have your mask on, and you'd get sticky, and it was a messy job. But I earned my stripes, apparently.
Hopefully you didn't lose any years off your life.
Yeah, well, we have yet to see, but the diabetes came on later in life, and maybe there was a correlation. But no, I worked my way into sales. Had an office right next to my dad, and started learning the ropes from my dad. Unfortunately, I didn't have agricultural in my background, which was too bad, because there's just something to appreciate when you could actually do what a farmer does and spend a year doing the planting, the maintenance, the crop, the harvesting, the equipment maintenance, like you guys are a part of. And there's just so many different elements to appreciate, to really know what a farmer goes through and to relate to them and talk the talk and the language. And but I learned it over the years. I spent 16 years total within the family business, but after 8 years, my dad had suffered from depression on and off our entire lives, but he'd go 6 months feeling pretty down, and he'd go 3-4 years without a single sign. And unfortunately, in 2016, he decided to take his life. At that time, I was 27 years old and had been working in the business for 8 years, but wasn't anticipating things changing like they did. And so that was on a Sunday, and Monday I had to step into the role of leadership. And at that time, we had 8 or 9 employees at that time, and 3 of them had worked for had been hired by my grandpa, had worked for my dad for 20 years, and now were faced with, working with me. And thankfully, throughout my whole tenure, I kept all of them on board, and they all continued to work diligently and work well for the family business. But it really created a trial for us that we had to navigate this really kind of messy time in our lives. But we had some business things we had to clean up as well. The bank could have come knocking any day with how some things were looking. So we had to get some debts paid down and kind of change some business practices that I have no doubt were weighing on my dad's mind. But I wasn't privy to a lot of that because of our working relationship. We all knew that my dad had years to continue working, and that phasing would come later on. But it came on very short notice. So at 27 years old, I took the reins. My mom took ownership, and she was my hero. She said, if this is where your heart is, I support you. Just keep running the show, and I'll support you in any way that you need. And so we had that relationship for 8 years, and man, did we deal with some troubles. And I don't know when we want to get going down the road of the story post me taking over ownership.
I just want to know,
of the company, but
I just want to know by a show of hands, virtually, how many people have heard of Riverbend Industries?
Riverbend Industries.
Riverbend Industries. I know I've seen it around. I've seen it on landscaping trucks and trailers. I've seen the sprayers, the pull-type sprayers over the years. I'm guessing a lot of our viewers, listeners have either had one, seen one, they know of that, and to hear of what happened, the background. Obviously, there's some cool things that it was doing, but that's maybe not that different than sometimes what maybe a farm might experience, a farmer or farm family, where there's tragedy, there's pressures, there's wins, there's losses, there's tragedies, and it's whether we like it or not, it's our story. It's our people's story. And so I think that really resonates with people. And I know there was another element. Was it after that even made it harder to stay in business?
Yeah, so 2 years after my dad passed away. So my dad died January 31st of 16. May 5th of 2018, we had a lithium-ion battery explode charging overnight in our main office and retail space, and it caused $750,000 in damage. And if you know the spraying world, May 5th is about tax time for a tax person. It's high pressure. We do, a vast majority of our revenue in a small window in that time frame. And so 2 years into my tenure, we're faced with this major disaster, fire damage, smoke damage, water damage. 9 sprinkler heads in our facility went off. The fire department says it's rare to see more than 2 go off in a fire. So massive damage. Water damage was probably the worst of it, quite honestly. And so we were displaced right in the middle of our busy season, and had to navigate the realm of insurance, ramifications of that.
They say don't charge a battery for so long or overnight, unsupervised. They do. I think I maybe had a old car battery blow up on a junk car charging it, but that's a real thing.
Yeah, so lead acid would do more of a smoke. The lithium ion, they'll pop like a firework. So we got it on security footage. It threw sparks about a 40-foot radius both directions, just one of those little, jump packs for jump starting a car. Or we used them to power our hose reels to wind up our hose for our spraying equipment, our lawn care sprayers. And so we had all kinds of them for running the hose back on the reels. And anyways, it was nothing to have it charging overnight.
Yeah, that's like a normal thing. Recharge it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't anything that happened before. And now you got insurance, which we know what happens when insurance gets involved. You need insurance to protect against catastrophic loss. That's what it's for. And now there must have been a payout or something, but then what happens?
Yeah, so we navigated that for 10 months. We hadn't even gotten our final payment on being restored from that. And our 30,000 square foot warehouse that housed a lot of our raw goods and materials for building our equipment collapsed under snow load. We had a March snowstorm. Yeah, so it was a 500-foot long building, 60-foot wide, 22-foot sidewalls, and we had a goofy March storm, wet, heavy snow, settled on the building just right, created an overload in the middle, and the building just collapsed right in on itself.
Was this a steel structure?
It was a wood post building, but it was steel walls, and we had just put a concrete floor in it a couple of years earlier. So we were investing in the building to continue using it. And unfortunately, so 10 months later, that collapsed. And I'll never forget my insurance adjuster told me, please do not tell your insurance adjuster from the prior claim, which we had still not been settled on, that this happened, because apparently it's a really big deal to have 2 major claims like that in the span of a year.
Oh, my goodness.
That building, we never got paid out quite like we should have on that building, but it was close to a $2 million building. And so then insert the insurability aspect of this whole equation, no one would touch us. And so we dealt with, petroleums, paints, gel coats, resins, pretty high flammable product and material. So we are a pretty high risk category of insurance anyways. Well, then you put 2 claims on your record, no one would touch us. So then 5 years into my tenure, we have no property coverage for insurance on our facilities. So,
oh man,
you can imagine having all of what you've got here and no insurance, and then you feel pretty vulnerable because you've experienced 2 major insurance disasters. And so,
because before something happens, you're probably maybe feeling a little more secure than you should be.
Yeah.
Invincible, right? We're like, oh, nothing's happened. Why would I need that? Why would I need all this?
Irritated
insurance?
by the monthly payment, and
they're always raising insurance. What am I getting out of this?
Yeah. So then, in the midst of all this, we all know what insurance rates have been doing the last 3-4 years.
Oh, crazy.
So we were faced with that in the midst of all this too. Even after 3 and 4 years went by post tragedy, our insurance agent thought for sure that our record would be cleared up and we'd be insurable again, and onset the insurance rates and all that. We were completely uninsurable. No one wanted to touch us. And so And we were able to navigate. Thankfully, we didn't have a mortgage on the facility. We were able to navigate that realm, but was it wise? We don't know.
You stuck it out for another 3 to 4 years after that?
4 years total. By the time we were done, we stuck it out without property coverage. At that time, our manufacturing facility was 37,000 square feet, so it was a pretty large facility.
Yeah, and that's some big blows to go through and still survive and keep going.
Yep. So then late 2022, we went to go work with the bank a little bit on some numbers, and the bank, wanted to see some collateral backing, a line of credit that we were looking to get into. And unfortunately, if you don't have insurance on your property, that can't be collateral. And so my mom and I were sitting in on that meeting, and we thought, maybe God's been trying to steer our path a different direction for the last, at that time, 7 years. Maybe we've been reluctant to respond to his call. And so we just took that as the final call from God to say, hey, I've got something else for you. And so we methodically planned out our next 6 to 8 months to whittle our inventory down and then make it a public announcement to our customers and support to say, hey, we've given it 54 years. And unfortunately, this was a really tough run, leading with my dad's suicide, the office retail space fire, the warehouse collapse. There were some other very big things that happened throughout that too, but that are very secondary to those major instances. But
can I ask a personal question?
Yeah.
What are thoughts going through your mind? That's got to be hard. Knowing your grandfather started it, your dad grew it.
That was exactly my thought. This is all my family's ever known. And I, at that time, had a firstborn son and wanted to be able to provide that opportunity if he wanted as well.
Pass it down.
Yep.
See, that's how I think this story is not that unfeasible for a farm family.
Yeah, generational. Yeah.
Yeah, is looking at generational things, is working, it's a family business. Tragedy comes on scene sometimes. Maybe conflict, which we're not hearing that now, but there's obviously all those things you got to navigate through or have the risk of having happen. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine what some farm families deal with a generational change, and there might be a son that's not interested, and how to navigate that, or sudden deaths. We know about farm accidents; they happen far too often, and deal with tragedy and how to move forward. And we know farms are growing ever so much, and it's more responsibility, and
stakes are higher too.
Yeah,
it just feels like
more expensive, and
the risk of failure is higher than it's ever been. I don't know. You gotta gamble better than you ever had to, it feels like. But
yeah, my grandfather who started the business, he turned 94 2 weeks ago. He's still alive, very well, competent mentally, and I kind of felt an obligation to him too, to what he created has provided for 3 generations of my family, now 4. And I almost felt an obligation to him. Bless his soul, he's very good in the midst of it. Didn't have a lot of emotion tied into it at that point.
Yeah, what'd he say?
Not a lot. He as a strong patriarch of the family, I think he wanted to kind of come across as strong in that, and just didn't reveal a lot of emotion. I know that he, there's more to my grandpa's connection to the whole matter too. That's kind of hard with the whole situation. The warehouse that collapsed was actually his building, insured under our policy.
Sure.
So he felt a vast sense of responsibility that the arrangement that him and my dad had with the insurance of the building had created a negative ramification later on that we hadn't sorted through with the passing of my dad. So he felt really bad that warehouse collapsing affected us in such a negative way. So, but that's a whole other story. But
it kind of sounds like he was protecting your heart though too.
Exactly. And that's what I mean.
He could have even dropped a little comment, which could have been not intended.
Yeah.
He could have been struggling with something or the thought, and it could have been a 500-pound bunker buster bomb or 5-ton, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It could have been really tough on
Was it 30,000 pounds? But my grandpa has lost a son now, kind of relating to the business. Now his grandson's leading this company, and then the end of the road comes while he's still around and cognizant. And so I imagine he had a huge mix of emotions. But I think at the end of the day, he's proud of the legacy he's built, and he's got a family that's been very provided for because of what he started and the risks that he took. So he never made a comment that led me into feeling pressured one way or another, which I was grateful for.
Yeah.
My grandpa's been very good to our family, and so yeah. Which again, this story continues to lead into what got me to where I am today. We decided, with this vulnerable state that we were in, with no insurance, that and our business was successful. It wasn't thriving, but it was successful. And obviously COVID hit us hard. And that was kind of the start of the end. And
no farm shows.
I failed to mention that. And no farm shows. Farmers still needed what they needed, but there were some secondary markets that we really serviced that took a hit and started to really affect us, especially seasonally, because when you're selling in 4 months of the year and that's delayed, people wait another year to start buying. And it was it was very hard for us as a seasonal business, as I'm sure you could understand. I forgot to insert the COVID part of this whole story. But we decided to just auction off everything, liquidate everything, and end up selling the property. We weren't sure if we were going to keep the property and lease it or sell it. But in the process of getting ready for our auction, we had Steffes auctioneers do our auction, and they did a great job. But I was getting things prepped, creating the lots of things for sale, and we had like 450 lots. It was a huge auction. But I came across an Anvil in our machine shop, and I thought, well, here's $2 in scrap steel. Let me carry this to the scrap pile as I'm working kind of by myself, getting this thing ready for sale.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no end of trinkets you could have kept or could have peddled separately, but here's this Anvil.
Yeah, this Anvil, and the fool in me didn't realize that there's an incredible amount of value in an Anvil. Well, I only found that out because I didn't want to carry this 175-pound Anvil to my scrap pile. So I threw auction number 123 or whatever it was on the Anvil, and crazy enough, that Anvil sold for over $1,000.
What?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And the guy who bought that Anvil had never met him. He ran a business on the same block as me, on the opposite corner of the same block. And when he came to pick up the Anvil, I said, I've got the craziest story to share about this Anvil. I was going to throw it away. And ironically enough, my scrap pile was like halfway between his business and my business. I was going to carry it halfway to this guy to throw it away. And he buys it for $1,000. And long story short, he asked what we were going to be doing with the property afterwards. And I said, might lease it, might sell it. Not sure. He goes, I want to buy it. And 6 months later, he purchased it.
There's a...
There's God's providence there.
Providence.
Yeah. So long story short, in selling the building to this guy, I ended up getting my Anvil back in the purchase agreement. I thought this Anvil
nostalgia
shares way too great of a story about how this whole story kind of came to a close. So now I've got this useless Anvil in my shop at home.
Hey, that's one way.
Tells a great story.
That's one way to get your foot in the door for getting a property.
Yeah. So go ahead and shop those auctions, guys. You never know what you'll find on the other side, but it might lead to a building purchase. But yeah, so that led me to a short stint of employment with the guy who also bought the property. Kind of just really unconventional circumstances, but I went and worked for that guy for 4 months. But in that interim time, one of the founders of Fix It For Ministry had asked, what do you see yourself doing in the future? And I was like, I don't know at all, but I trust that God's going to make my plan clear at some point. And he said, let's grab breakfast tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And we went to breakfast, and he pitched this opportunity with Fix It For Ministry. And just a number of months later, I was on board, and now I get to serve the kingdom, serve the community and people in need. And so then again, in my development role, fundraising and a lot of, small nonprofit duties. It led me to reach out to you guys to see if there was any interest in hearing what we're doing and being a part of it in some way, shape, or form. But that's basically what led us here today. So
yeah, I'm sure you guys can hear the saw in the background. But I want to touch on, before we move into the Fix It Forward part of it, we want to talk on the Fix It Forward. What is Fix It Forward for those of us who don't know? But also, we've talked about God's providence, but it could also perhaps feel like, well, if God's in the good things, why is there bad things happening? What's your view on that?
Well, like I was telling Jack before the podcast, when my dad passed away, I knew my dad loved the Lord, and struggle with that earthly depression. And I thought, you know what? My response to my dad's life and legacy and the tragedy of how it all ended was God's given me a platform to proclaim his goodness, because in the midst of all the tragedy in my life, the goodness far outweighs that. And when we can get that into perspective, and to be honest with you, like, our hope is in eternity. My hope is in eternity. So our life might be pretty crummy, but we have purpose. We have a eternal focus on, what we're doing here on earth. And what we're doing today isn't necessarily for tomorrow. It's for eternity. And so I just thought, you know what? God's given me a platform with the story that he's kind of unfolded in my life that I just want to continue to share, that, like, yeah, life's full of tragedy and trials, but it's also full of really good things. Like, I love my family. I love what I'm doing now. I love the community that I've built around myself. It comes with drama. It comes with tension. It comes with trials and tribulations. But at the end of the day, when we have an eternal focus on why we're here, there's hope and there's purpose in all of that can get you through some of the tough things. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking as you share this, you could have wallowed in that tragedy, and it wouldn't have. I don't think anyone would have blamed you. To have maybe even get some of that depression, and maybe there's still times where it's like, man, this is so hard, but it's interesting how that perhaps didn't happen in a big way, and you've gotten beyond that, and you've talked about how your faith in the Lord and focusing on his goodness, even in this fallen world. It's an interesting perspective, and I think a lot of times that keyword perspective is the difference between going into that avenue or lane of depression or being on that path of, this is a fallen world. There's still tragedy that happens. God's still in control. This is a moment in eternity, but eternity's long. And we have to be focused on that. We have to be focused on the long game. And even when things happen, just continue to lean in on that.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad did a good job of instilling just the hope that we have in the Lord. And he succumbed to his, battle with depression, but he just really instilled that in me.
Yeah.
So
even with those shortcomings, there was still a positive thing and a lot of positive that he instilled in you and was part of your life story. And
and I was thankful. A lot of people say, man, you lost your dad at 27, but I looked at the situation as, no, I had a dad for 27 years. A lot of people don't have a dad, or have a dad but doesn't fit the role. And I was thankful to have 27 years. I was mature. I was on my own. I was, established in life. And I was grateful to get that far, because a lot of children lose their dads or don't have that father figure by definition in their lives. And that choice might be harder for them in how to respond. But I was grateful to have 27 good years with my dad. And, we were talking before the podcast about how, working with my dad definitely had some struggles. I came in with a fresh perspective on how to expand into new markets. And, we were such a regionally focused business. How to expand to a national focus and grow this thing. And so we butted heads on that. He was pretty traditional, and this has worked for 40 years. Why change it? And so that's kind of going down a different.
That never happens.
Yeah. But so, I know with you farmers working with your kids, or kids working with your dads, there's a whole different perspective on which way to take things.
And I've heard farmers say, and some of them on our podcast, you got to if someone's going to take over the farm, or someone, you want them to be involved and to be able to be on their own someday, sometimes you got to let them try stuff, and sometimes you got to let them fail.
Yeah.
But still be there to encourage, support, and not refuse to let them. I mean, it's in some cases, I've also heard farmers say it's chased their kids away, and they've, I don't know whether they've regretted it or they knew someone who did. And now let's fast forward to today. Fix It Forward. Tell us what Fix It Forward is.
So 10 years ago, we're in our 10th year of existence. Matt and Jeremy were friends back in high school. They started Fix It Forward Ministry, but their friends in high school liked to tinker automotively. They both became software developers at Microsoft. We're talking one day at break, and they're like, hey, why don't we start using some of our gifts and talents to help some people working on their cars. And so they started networking through their church, trying to find especially widows or people that are maybe a little less privileged to fix their brakes, put new tires on their car, change their alternator, whatever their small need might have been. And so 10 years ago, they started doing this through Hope Church, local here in Fargo, North Dakota. And after just a number of months, one of the guys from the church said, hey, I've got this old van that works great, but could use some new brakes. And you could find someone with how you're networking this thing to receive this vehicle. It'd be a great asset to someone to excel in life. Like, wow, it's a great idea. So someone just handed them the keys to a minivan, and they found someone that needed a new vehicle and got them connected. And next thing you know, 5 vehicles came in, 10 vehicles came in, 100 vehicles came in. They were just working out of a garage at Matt's farm in North Moorhead. And eventually they went to the YWCA because they kind of had exhausted a lot of what they were doing within the church and said, hey, YWCA, how can we help people that are going through your programs? And their response was, transportation is the single greatest barrier to reaching complete independence of social services that doesn't have a good solution. And you guys have that solution, because a lot of, especially within the YWCA Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, a lot of those people, women specifically, are fleeing abuse, fleeing domestic violence. And when they're confined to riding the public transit system, their abusers are riding the same bus or know how to find them or harass them by stalking them. And transportation also limits these people to where they can live and where they can work. And so the YWCA said, man, we'd love to be able to plug your services into helping our women get out of our programs, because that's the final barrier that these people need, is transportation. So we started vetting clients of the YWCA through their caseworkers. So their caseworkers would do the vetting process, find out who's positioned to get a car, because a car doesn't come at no cost. I mean, there's maintenance costs, there's, regular fueling, there are some cost needs. And so we're not just going to give a car to anybody, but through their caseworkers, we were able to find the people that were employed, had, received housing, and have a steady job, have food, housing, any other needs that they have prior to being able to flourish on their own, which is transportation. And so we ended up starting to work with the YWCA, and we thought, let's expand other social services in the community, and let's be a resource for them. So today we work with over 40 different social service partners that do all of our casework for us. So we don't have to have any caseworkers on staff, which saves us an immense amount of overhead. It takes a lot of time to build a relationship with a client, find out their need, make sure that they're established and really in position to receive a vehicle. And so now we're in our 10th year. We've donated 601 vehicles to people in need, and we have done free vehicle repairs to over 1,200 people and their vehicles.
What?
And so
I've had a lot of what statements here on this podcast. Yeah. That is insane. That's like 60 a year, and I'm sure it wasn't 60 the first year.
Yeah, and this year we're on pace to do 120. And so what happened was, after 3 years of running this nonprofit on the side of everything else they were doing, running their Microsoft careers, Matt Carlson gets this harebrained idea that he can't house 30, 40 vehicles at his farm anymore and in his farm garage. He's like, I'm going to quit my Microsoft job. I'm going to buy a shop, and I'm going to start an auto care, with the sole intent that auto care can provide a place for the ministry to operate and grow and thrive. And so Matt bought just an empty shop building in North Moorhead and started an auto care, and failed miserably for what I'm told is the first 6 months. Didn't make a dime. And Matt got involved right around that time because he was desperate to make this thing work out. He got involved with a shop coaching group based out of Tennessee that basically coached him on how to run an auto care and run it successfully. And so now in 7 years of the existence of the auto care, which again supports the ministry, they're separate entities, but in 7 years now, Matt owns and operates 4 auto cares in the Fargo-Moorhead area. He has over 55 employees, and all of them provide opportunity free of charge for the ministry to operate and grow. So we don't pay for buildings, we don't pay for office space, we don't pay for our insurance.
The ministry.
The ministry.
The ministry is like kind of a cost-free expense free is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And so now we have
Wow.
space to house our vehicles. Right now we're sitting on over 60 vehicles that are in the process of being repaired and redonated back to the community.
Any Ford Raptors?
Or, there might be a Ford Raptor somewhere within the realm of our group, but
I'm
it's
probably not the profile that's going to get accepted into the program.
It's funny that you say that, though, because obviously that'd be a very nice vehicle. Some of the people that receive our free vehicles cannot afford to pay the tax title license on them.
Oh,
That small
even
sales tax.
even assuming the tax isn't that much,
Yep.
it's still for
So
North Dakota residents 5%, and then there's fees and
Yep. And so we've had, I think this last year we had about 3 people that received a free vehicle. They go to the DMV to register that vehicle, and they find out that it's literally too nice for them to afford just the tax title license.
hold on. If it's free, do you put $0 or do you put $1?
So it's based on fair market value, unfortunately. So when they go to tax title license it, the state of Minnesota has just shifted their interpretation of some laws on that. So the Minnesota side of the border here is going to be a little more favorable to the people we're helping, but the North Dakota side, as it sits right now, they appraise the vehicle at the fair market value, and you pay the tax.
Oh man,
Tax
okay,
on that. So
North Dakota,
help us out.
come on, we've got to fix that. And I'm not saying to make an unreasonable exception. I'm saying, could there be something change in our code or whatever it takes where there's help for these ministries that are actually helping people, so that's not a barrier. Sounds like Minnesota's got something that
Yeah, it
works.
was just in the last 2 months.
How much is it to go to Minnesota?
So $102.50 will get you a free vehicle in Minnesota.
All right.
So
Yeah, because how many times have you bought something and you're supposed to list the value of the thing?
yeah,
When you go to the DMV.
for tax purposes, yeah.
All right. That is a very big temptation to cheat or to lie.
Yeah, we've all had temptation to
Oh my
fudge on the
goodness.
bill of sale of something, right?
Right. And then there's even people saying like, well, you just say it was a couple $100. It's
Yeah.
like, well, that's
Which is part of the reason why they appraise on fair market value.
okay. That's recent. So they,
Well,
on everyone?
So yeah,
Or-
I mean, I've
Or
been
can
in.
you just tell them a number? Or if they come and say it was free or as $1, they don't believe you and they're like, we're going to do fair
yeah,
market
if they
value.
question you, they'll likely go to Kelley Blue Book, or unfortunately, the state of North Dakota will even use JD Power, which is about 25 to 30% over Kelley Blue Book value.
So if I'm selling a vehicle, reference JD Power.
yep,
If I'm
you're
buying one,
it,
reference
Kelley Blue Book.
Kelley Blue Book. All right. I'm going to
Yeah.
remember that.
So
Yeah, we got to fix that. North Dakota, if we got any legislators or if we can talk to those legislators, is that something worth getting fixed or passed? I think so. That'd be really nice.
I mean, at 601 vehicles, probably a majority of which go to North Dakota, there might be some value in pursuing some legislation around that. So
Yeah. So I suppose there's a vehicle that could be worth $10,000.
Oh yeah, we've seen over 20,000 vehicles that come to us that are nicer than the staff's vehicles. It's like wow.
Okay.
And we
Over
want to
$20,000.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
worth and we want to honor the gifting of that vehicle from the donor to us
Wow.
to get it to someone to serve them, and it might be better suited to be sold and some of that money's used for maybe repairing 2 or 3 other vehicles, but we want to honor that gift from the community and get it serving someone in need, because that's why so many people generously give us their vehicles. Last year alone, we had 275 vehicles donated to us from people of the Fargo, Moorhead, and beyond.
Wow.
And
So wait,
yeah.
hold on, math's not working here. You got 275 donated.
Yep.
But you gave 120 or something.
not last year, 92.
92.
So the ones that
Are
aren't
they
worthy,
like piling up or what?
so the ones that aren't worthy of the investment of being redonated will sell or scrap, and all of that money will also be reinvested into our mission.
Okay.
So last year we scrapped roughly $50,000 worth of vehicles, and so that's a pretty major source of our revenue.
Yeah.
And we also sell some that, like, if it's a high cost of ownership vehicle, it might be a convertible, might be a foreign car,
Jaguar.
We're sitting on a BMW right now that we're looking to sell because it's just a high cost of ownership. We don't want to set our people up for failure. If an oil change is going to cost $250, it's going to be hard for someone to maintain that vehicle. If it's going to cost twice as much for brakes, we want to set these people up for success.
Have a car that's reasonable.
Yeah, so that's why a
for
Ford
them.
Raptor might not be the one, but
Yeah, maybe I should donate one.
yeah, we're ready to receive at all 4 Auto Care locations.
You
can
better
drop
not
the
be
keys
driving
and
it later.
Well, we might need to take it to a
Test
corporate
drive it.
partner of ours to take a appreciation photo for what the community does to help us do what we do.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, I was doing the math here when he talked about the value of a car could be $20,000. Well, 5% on that is $1,000. I suppose if it's a $10,000 value car, which isn't that hard to get to these days for a running car, is $500, and that's a barrier for. Tell me about that. Like, so someone goes to DMV and is like, they got to be so stoked and excited and on cloud nine. They go to tax title. You guys don't do that for them. They still have to go themselves, put in.
So they're made aware of the cost that's going to come with a free vehicle, and a lot of the caseworkers or the social service partners that we work with will cover that cost for their client.
Okay.
And so that's a big help. We've had some groups talk about fundraising to help with some of those costs that kind of creep up on people.
But you told me earlier there's been examples of where they're probably on cloud nine, super happy, and they get to the window, the DMV window that we all love. Great people behind there, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they get this probably like look on their face or realize, I don't have that money to even get this thing out of jail, so to speak. Get this in my possession, drive it legally.
Yeah, so they've got the title all signed over to themselves and go up to the window and find out the bad news. And they'll walk right back into our door and say, I need a different vehicle. I can't afford this one. And it was free.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that is
tough.
Bummer.
Then the other situation that we've dealt with too often is, again, I was talking about a lot of these women escaping domestic violence or abuse. When we publish the stories of these people on social media to share, what kind of impact we're making in the community, we'll have to black out the photo of the vehicle that's being donated, because if an abuser can correlate the story of the person who's receiving the vehicle to now what the vehicle looks like, they know how to stalk that person. They know, they know when they're home, when they're at their apartment, so on and so forth. So we had one gal come in last fall crying. She'd received her vehicle 2 weeks earlier, and her abuser had already found out what she was driving and was starting to harass her again, stalk her. She came in crying, asking for a new vehicle, said it could be way worse quality. It could be older. I don't care. I just have to get something newer so he doesn't continue to know what my routine is and follow me, because he's just not leaving me alone. And so that happens from time to time as well.
Man.
So
what a challenge. We don't even think of that. Like, that's just like not even on our radar.
Doing this for 10 years, you wouldn't believe all the things we've learned about how this works. We don't work directly with the clients. We work through the caseworkers.
Yep.
Because they have that established relationship. And so people think that they can walk into a Fix It Ford Auto Care and ask for a free car or free service. It doesn't work like that. You have to be working with it. I mean, maybe another auto care in town might be looking to do something like that. It might be a wild idea, but
I'm saying for the guy that wants a free vehicle, just walk in and say, I want a free vehicle.
It also
I can afford Rapid, right?
It might be a waste of your time too.
That might have been me just a second ago.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the stories of people we're helping. I just a couple weeks ago, I went through the number of veterans we've helped since 2021, when we really started documenting the people we're helping, and it was like close to 20 veterans for overcoming PTSD or homelessness or a drug addiction. We've helped a number of new Americans or people that have fled a domestic violence situation. You name the story, we've got something really similar that we've helped someone through that with the gifting of a vehicle or service or free repairs. So a lot of people have a vehicle that they've been sitting out on the street for 6 months or a year because they can't afford to put new brakes in it, or their tires are shot, or they can't afford a new battery. And they'll work with their caseworker to get through to approval of our services, and then we'll get them in the queue and do the service necessary for their vehicle at no cost to them and get them back on the road to success.
Do you have any kind of statistics, or do you find out what percentage of these donations stick, so to speak, where they
so
perpetuate into them taking care of themselves, bettering their lives, not falling back into whatever it was, homelessness, the lack of job, and
so
system.
In the last 6 months, we've been working on building a system to capture the long-term impact of what we're doing, because that's important to know what type of success what the work we're doing is having. And so last 6 months, we've been capturing all kinds of that data. And, 6 months is a pretty small snapshot of a 10-year ordeal. But I've actually got off the phone this morning with a gentleman who received a vehicle from us in 2021, a Toyota Solara with 180,000 miles. It's served him for the last 4 years. And he's actually at a point now where he's going to donate it back to us.
No way.
So
That's another what statement. What?
We've heard a story like that at least 4 different times, and we don't even hear all the stories. We know that sometimes people that receive a vehicle from us end up giving that vehicle to someone in their world, and they'll upgrade a vehicle.
They don't always forward.
Yeah,
fix it forward
again.
Send it forward.
It's kind of like when you're in the drive-through line and someone ahead of you's paid it forward, but you're like not sure how far ahead of you it started and like where does this end?
Stop now.
Yeah. So I think you just stop when the fries are cold. So maybe you just stop when the vehicle quits working. But we don't typically give away new vehicles, but the vehicles that we get are everything that these people need. And our goal is that these vehicles serve these people for at least 2 years. Oftentimes that's plenty of time for them to get a leg up in life and break free from the system. So yeah.
I gotta say, not knowing anything about Fix It Ford besides like cool logo, all of a sudden they're popping up all over. This was years ago. And it's like, hey, it looks like there's a cross in the logo. Fix It Ford. What's the ministry called?
So it's Fix It Ford Ministry. It was Higher Power Automotive Ministries originally, but due to some copyright issues, we had to rebrand. But Higher Power was also kind of a play on words for, the divine, element of what we do. The gospel is the why behind what we're doing, but we look to help anyone because everyone needs the gospel. So
yeah. And so from my perspective, when I first saw the logo, multiple locations pop up, one on my route home, I'm like, that's cool. Sounds cool. I start to hear things on the radio. I start to hear things around about like, hey, we've donated so many cars. And it's like so forgive me for maybe being the half full guy and you're the half empty, you're the half full guy. And I'm like, okay, this is a marketing gimmick. I'm sure there's good happening. And I like that. No matter what, we should do it, even if it's like for wrong motives. But is this just to help the business side get more customers, have a leg up on the competition? And what I'm hearing from you is, no, this actually began as a ministry. And I've heard Matt Carlson talk in the past at a Faith Ford conference. And I found out his heart in person, which by the way, we're going to have him on a podcast, I believe the next podcast. So that's a plug for you to stick around, check out the next podcast and make sure you do not miss that. If you've enjoyed this conversation about Fix It Ford, he's going to definitely shed even more light on that. But I found out, no, this thing's legit. The business side was not because he maybe wanted to, but because he had to, in some cases, to have the ministry. It was like, I think you couldn't get insurance without a
liability coverage for our volunteers working on these cars was impossible.
Right. So you had to have the business,
the space,
to have the insurance, the space. What else was a limitation?
Just the equipment that was needed. We could only. I think Matt has 2. I never was involved in the early days when he was working out on his farm, but the number of hoists. On a Saturday shop day, we'll have 6 to 8 cars up on hoists, and we'll have as many as 40 volunteers working on putting brakes in
at one time.
Yeah, I mean, not all the time, but we'll have groups that big, and so yeah, we'll have a number of cars up. Some are oil changes and tire rotation. Some are pretty involved timing chains, struts, brakes, tie rods. There's just a whole number of things that can be needed, but yeah, to your point, most people become incredibly successful, and then philanthropy follows. Matt's success story started with philanthropy, and the success has followed. And for the record, Matt is by far the biggest donor back to the ministry because that's his heart is behind what we're doing, and the shops support in an incredibly large but non-monetary way that keep our costs incredibly low. So full transparency, the cost of a vehicle to be made safe and reliable and get into the hands of someone in need is about $2,200. So you can't go to Marketplace and find a vehicle that's been completely gone through, that has been deemed reliable and has been gone through from a safety element for $2,200. And then we're finding and targeting the people that really specifically need that car.
$2,200 goes so fast.
That's like organizational cost. That's cost of the parts to be invested into the vehicle. That's everything.
And the parts are probably at cost.
The parts average about $900 a vehicle.
Yeah.
Is what the average is.
Think of the volume. When you got the volume, you've got pull with buying capacity and all that.
And we're getting parts at wholesale cost through our vendors. Again, that's the shop partnership allows us to get the parts at wholesale.
Do you find the vendors getting excited about this?
Yeah, we I maybe shouldn't name it because it's not quite public yet, but we have one local vendor of the shops that's likely donating 5 sets of tires, and it might become an annual thing for us. So
okay.
How
could you not? This is such a cool and useful practical thing. Jack, what do you think? We should Jack get our whole team. If you guys can handle 40 people in a shop. Maybe
I was hoping maybe one day, especially with all the mechanics on your side of this world, we could do a team building event one Saturday or a Tuesday night, or the 2 volunteer opportunities that we offer. But we'll get you guys working.
And we're only going to video it, not for the publicity, but because it's going to be funny.
Capture it.
Watching some of us who knows mechanical things and some of us who doesn't. And if you let us all come together, it'll be pretty comical. I think we'll learn some things and we'll have fun. And we'll do it for a great cause.
I picture you guys putting one of your office guys with the soft hands up, with a shop vac up vacuuming while the tech guys are underneath, like doing the mechanical side of things, and capturing a moment like that on video would be, I think, pretty impactful.
Oh man.
Everything from cleaning a vehicle interior, because we want people to have dignity when they receive a vehicle. It's been used by maybe 1 or 2 other people.
I just took my truck through Don's car wash because it was super dusty. Anytime you have the kids in it and you go on a trip or you've had it not detailed on the inside very well, it just gets so dirty. And you don't realize how dirty it is until you get it completely clean. And Don's does a great job of whipping through it and getting it pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I feel so good in this. It just feels so fresh.
Yeah. Oh, it's a sense of pride. I mean, these people are receiving a gift that's creating probably the most impactful moment of their entire lives. And we want these cars to be shiny. And so that's another thing. Cosmetically, we only give out vehicles that are tip-top shape cosmetically.
Sure.
If they're a rust bucket or have major body damage, those vehicles are going down the road.
But
Tommy's Express Car Wash locally has provided free car washes for every vehicle we've ever donated.
Okay.
So, yep.
Awesome.
So we do have a partnership with them.
Yes.
And we appreciate that very much. So
I could enjoy that. I like to see stuff get clean.
Tommy's is the closest car wash to us as well. So
that's convenient. You're not driving 30 minutes to
get
it out washed.
So
just burns up some volunteer time.
Yeah, but we, when we give the keys over to an individual, it's almost commonplace that they have to compose themselves before they drive away in their vehicle because of their circumstances and
how emotional
the opportunity that they know that it's going to provide for them. So
that's fabulous.
People seeing, their mom and dad that they haven't seen in a decade because they can't drive to Billings, Montana, or wherever that may be. Last year, a lady saved her house from foreclosure because she was able to get her vehicle and start excelling in life. Another gal was able to finish school and graduate with honors because she was about to drop out because she couldn't afford to get to class all the time that was invested to bum a ride off a friend to get to class or taking the bus. She was just down on her luck, and we were able to fulfill that need and graduate with honors, and just story after story of people that are just finding hope in their futures. So
I think God has done some amazing things in our community, in your life. I appreciate you being willing to take his call and lead the others, lead off with that. And I see some really cool things in the future, near future, long future, and we're just hopeful to keep tracking with you and seeing what else is going on and check in later. And of course, we're going to find ourselves at the Fix It Ford shop somehow, some way, in the very near future.
Causing trouble and causing productivity.
That's right. We may have our fingerprints on a few things. We'll see.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'd be good. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. This has been great, getting to know you guys and what you guys are doing in the community and helping farmers across the globe. Really, it's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd sure appreciate a 5-star review if we earned it. And make sure you share too. This is something that I think has got to be heard. We've got to get the message out. We've got to hear what's going on in our community. Be encouraged, and then also be motivated to do likewise. All right, I'm Matt, your host. Thanks for tuning in. God bless, and see you next time.